What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Two Nick Chicks. I'm your girl, Lady, and the Chef, and I'm joined by my co-host this morning.
Deepalox 21. What's up?
It's another day. We get to talk about basketball. Get to talk about the New York Liberty, who just went on a road trip. Prior to the road trip, the New York Liberty have actually done pretty well. They were on an 8-game win streak. They're still sitting at the top of the East. Actually, they're still technically ranked number one in the WNBA. They're sitting at 27-6. Could have really been 28-5, but we'll get into that. But we'll I kind of wanted to recap and go before we went on the road and played on a road trip itself. So the Liberty lost to the Connecticut Sun back on Saturday, August 24th. Connecticut ended the Liberty's 8-game win streak. That game in particular, the Liberty could have won, but what Connecticut did was they put the clamps on the Liberty defensively, and their defense was like this matador smothering defense that they played against the Liberty. And I don't think the Liberty was prepared for them to play that type of defense. Now, that was the last matchup against Connecticut for this season. We played them 4 times. The Liberty had beat them 3. I'm sure Connecticut's coach was like, I'm not trying to lose to them another time. Like, we need to beat them at least once this season. Connecticut is also sitting at number 2 in the league, so they're right behind the Liberty. But I think the Liberty have a 4-game lead over Connecticut. The problem with that game was that the Liberty had 19 turnovers. Connecticut only had 10. The Liberty did out-rebound them 44-37. 3-point percentage, the Liberty was at 21.9. Connecticut was at 15. And field goal percentage, the Liberty got outslaughtered with that at 41% to 36.9. So the Liberty had 19 turnovers. They got outscored in the paint 28-46. And same thing with the fast break points, 7-13. Brianna Stewart didn't have the best game. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but she carried them. She had a double-double. She had 15 points and 15 rebounds. I think some people sleep on Connecticut and don't think that they're as good as they are. And I think Connecticut is in the same positioning as the Liberty and that they're trying to win a championship in Connecticut. I wanted the Liberty to take that game to finish off strong and have those 9 games before they went on the road out west. But whatever. You win some, you lose some, right? But I'm finding that since that game, the turnovers have been an issue with the Liberty, and they're very high. And I'm watching the games, and the same repeated pattern I'm noticing is the passes that the Liberty are throwing are just not good passes, 1. And then 2, the Liberty have this habit, and they've been doing this the whole season, where they do a lot of times the high-low, and they'll pass the ball in the paint, or they're attempting to pass the ball in the paint, and they're forcing a pass that's not there. So, again, I'm watching the games, and there's a double team happening, whether it's on Jonquel, whether it's on Brianna Stewart, and you have someone like Sabrina, or you'll have Courtney Vandersloot, and they're trying to throw the ball in the paint. It's not there, but yet you still attempted to make the pass. Not sure why they do that. But I think that the Liberty's passing is what's been their Achilles heel, and that's something that they have to pay attention to going into the playoffs, because we've talked about this. Those teams that are in 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, while they haven't been winning enough games in a row, those teams that are not in the playoff picture right as of now, they're trying to get that 8th seeded spot. And those are the teams that are in 6th, 7th, 8th. You have to watch out for, because they'll bump those better teams like your Liberties, like your Aces, like your Connecticut Suns. Those are the teams that are in 6th, 7th, 8th, and lower that are going to, I should say, and higher, that are going to try to bump those top teams out. But I'm curious to you if you've also noticed anything else besides just the terrible passing that's been a hindrance for this Liberty and causing 15 plus turnovers a game.
Definitely the turnovers, man. I say, man, it's that's gonna will that be the death of them? Yes and no. And lately I seen their defense. One game is on, like is lacking, and next minute they're clamping down. So I guess they have to, that has to be game in, night out. So
Mhm.
the defense can sometimes lack in some games, and in other games it's like really like strong. But those two things, their turnovers is like going to be the death of them to a certain degree, and the defense has to come every night. Um, and well, and let me add a third thing: their bench. The bench sometimes they get strong, and other times they disappear. So those three things, but mainly it's the turnovers and their defense. I think that that's something that they have to like really like hone in on, and just like this is what's gonna get us to, hoist that trophy. If they could just like just those, cause I mean, the scoring, I've noticed, it's been balanced scoring. Stewie, she continue, do what she do. She's like a Brunson. She's gonna score, and she's gonna, rebound, and her free throw. This she's complete. John Crowell is back. Um, Sloop, she's really stepped up. She's becoming that floor general. So you could like those things is there. It's those turnovers and that defense, man. Is they really have to hone in on those two things.
Yeah, I think the Liberty just have to really figure out how to the decision making on the passes has to be there. Like
Hmm.
better basketball IQ when it comes to like, should I make this pass in the paint? Or sometimes it's not even just the passes in the paint. Like the other day I saw John Quell and I think Benijah Laney Hamilton was running on a fast break and John Quell got a nice rebound and she threw a chest pass. And I said, you should have threw a bounce pass
Yeah,
because the chest pass wound up getting stolen. Whoever was like following the pass, they stole it. And then Benijah had to run back down and try to chase whoever it was that got the steal. And I was like, you see what I mean? Like you've been in the league long enough, and it's little things like that that cost you.
yeah,
Now you got to go back on defense and work hard. And a lot of times, I will give the Liberty credit, they'll make a mistake, but then someone like Phoebish or Courtney, someone to like help them out and get another steal so that they can bring it back down
yeah.
the floor. So
Hmm.
they do a great job at that. But I think that just the basketball IQ has to be a lot better because I noticed one thing with the Liberty is that when the games that matter, like those really important games, we'll go back to last year when it was the finals and the Liberty had the opportunity to win at home in Brooklyn and bring it back to Vegas. They didn't play well in that game. And true fans would know, like when you were watching, we all were like, what's going on? Like they looked like just there was no chemistry there. It was just a flat, very flat game. And then we'll go forward to this year when it was the Commissioner's Cup against Minnesota. That was a balanced game. Now, I thought that game was definitely played better than when they played last year in that finals game that could have brought it back to Vegas. But I want to say once it got midway to late in the third quarter, the Liberty lost their mojo and Minnesota was able to capitalize, and that's how they won that game. But those are just two games that I think that like they matter, and you got to win those games. You got to figure out a way when the tough gets going how to win those games and overcome those games and win those games. But I believe that they'll figure out how to win those games and do what they need to do. But anyways, Liberty went out on the road. They started their West Coast trip on a good note. So they played against the Phoenix Mercury on Monday, August 26th. They did win that game 84-70. Um, Turnovers weren't that high. The Liberty still had 15 turnovers. Phoenix had 22 turnovers.
Yeah.
So, again, but it's still too many turnovers. If you could keep it to 10 or less, we used to always say this with the Knicks, you'll be a lot more successful. The Liberty did hold Phoenix to only 4 free throws for the game, where the Liberty were 14 for 16 from the free throws, which was great. Um, but the thing is, even though the Liberty had 15 turnovers, Phoenix was able to capitalize off of those turnovers. They had 28 points off of the turnovers, where the Liberty only had 12 points. So I noticed in this West Coast trip, the Liberty was still able to capitalize off of points off the turnovers, minus this game, where Phoenix had the betterment and they had 28 points off of the turnovers. The Liberty also got out hustled against Phoenix in the fast break points 21-11, as well as points in the paint 30-46. Stewie had a better game. She had 21 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. She had 1 steal, 1 block. She was 4 for 4 from the free throw line. Jonquel Jones had 15 points, 7 rebounds. She was also 4 for 4 from the free throw line. Courtney Vandersloot had a hell of a game and she came through strong and heavy. She had
Yeah.
16 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and she was 3 for 4 from the free throw line. Sabrina didn't have the best game. She was off from the three. She did have 13 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, but she was 3 for 10 from the free throw line. Here's my thing with Sabrina that's been a little frustrating
Mhm.
the past 4 games. I feel like there's times where we know Sabrina can knock down the three from anywhere on the floor. But sometimes, and usually I notice when it's the end of a quarter and it's the last 15, 20 seconds, Sandy Brondello likes to have the ball in Sabrina's hand and Sabrina to take that last shot, right? Because that's what they do. They set the high screen. Sabrina's gonna shoot the logo three, and nine times out of 10 she can hit it. But my only thing is there's times where I'll see she'll come out to shoot the three, not at the end of a quarter, but she'll just shoot a three. We don't need it, and it feels rushed. It
Mhm.
just feels like you wasted a possession and you gave it up for what reasoning? So I don't
Yeah.
understand what's the point of like you coming out to rush to shoot a 3 point shot that we don't need. Um, but I thought the Phoenix game was a good game. The Liberty have had their way over Phoenix this season. We've been able to beat them as well. What I'm noticing also is that the teams that we beat out of the season series this year, they seem to want to capitalize and redeem themselves to get at
Yep.
least one win over the Liberty this year. So Phoenix is another team they wanted to come out. I think also because Phoenix felt like we're home, so we should be able to win this game. And the Liberty were able to beat them at, on their floor, which is a
Yeah.
nice way to capitalize and start off the West Coast trip. But I thought that that was a pretty good game considering Brittany Griner was pretty much having her way in the paint between the rebounds and the putbacks. But that game, I didn't really have too many complaints with that game, minus the 15 turnovers. I thought, I mean, they did out hustle us in the fast break points and points in the paint, but I thought that was a pretty good game overall.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's what I mentioned. It was like that game was like balanced scoring. Um,
Hmm.
with Sloop, like I said, I mentioned the floor generous. Like she seemed to found her mojo. She's a true veteran in this league. So with that game, outside of you know, the getting out, beat. But they again, there was they forced Phoenix into like 22 turnovers. So it's like they reversed. So if you could do that night in and night out, reverse that, then these are the little things that you have to, correct those mistakes going down, down the stretch because playoffs is going to be here before you know. So that's what I was trying to say. That like the turnovers, if they can contain theirs and force other teams, and you that's check, that's a check mark. Um, they got up to a great start. They controlled the tempo for the most part.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm definitely gonna speak about the next game. But they sort of controlled that. They got out. They were able to, maintain that lead. Phoenix did cut it in at one point, due to some like sloppy, efforts on, the Liberty's part. But for the most part, they were able to contain, Benijah, great coming off the bench, her defense, we is needed and it's key. Um, so it and with that win, it helped them to avoid a 2 game losing streak, which
yeah,
they haven't had that since May. So, that was again, if when you could, you know, cut down on things, if they would have lost, that would have been a 2 game lose. You out in the West, you just want to just, things like that you don't want it, you try to avoid because it can suck you, or it can shift, you know you you just don't know. So that was a nice win for them. Yeah, people going to score, Cloud, Taraji, again, she's a veteran, so what she's capable of. Kalia Copper, she's an Olympian. So, things like that, when you're able to, match, a team that good, it may not be saying the standards, but again, it's just when you're able to force a team like a Phoenix into 22 turnovers, that says a lot about, your defense. So that's what I was trying to say, just the defense, just locking in, on a night in, night out basis. But overall, it was just a great win. And they needed that.
yeah. I think it's pivotal when you go out on the West Coast trips that you capitalize on those wins. And the Liberty seem to be, they don't seem to be, they are a really good road trip team. They play
Yeah.
very well. I mean, they've done a phenomenal job at home. I think they've only lost maybe 2 games at home, but
Hmm.
they are a very good road team as well. And, I see a lot of teams. I think that a lot of teams know, and there's this respect level for the Liberty more this season, and that when I'm watching that interview against the opposing team right at halftime, at the start of halftime, I'm seeing the repeated comments about the Liberty where they're interviewing the star player from the opposite team, and they're like, they're number one for a reason. And this is what I'm hearing them saying. They're like, the Liberty, we know what they can do. They can score. They have a lot of options, and that's the threat that the Liberty have. So I think there's this high level of respect for the Liberty this season, and that a lot of other teams in the league are like, you have to watch out for them because they're first of all, the Liberty are also an excellent fourth quarter team. I believe they're number one in the league in fourth quarter points, and that somehow they figure out a way in the fourth quarter to just blow right past you, and they're able to do that really well. So yeah, I thought that was a really good win against Phoenix and a good way to start off the West Coast road trip and to bounce back from the previous game that they lost. Next game, the Liberty played the Los Angeles Sparks on Wednesday the 28th. The Liberty lost this game against the Los Angeles Sparks. Again, this is a team that throughout the season series, we beat them every time. This was our last matchup against LA. The Liberty should have won this game. They completely handed this to LA, and this was due to horrible passing. The Liberty had 20 turnovers, LA only had 12. They also got killed in the fast break points, 17-4. The Liberty did have 29 points off of the turnovers, where the Sparks only had 11. Los Angeles had 12 steals. The Liberty only had 4. Stewie did have 32 points, 2 steals, 6 rebounds. Sabrina had 18 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. She was 3 for 14 from the 3-point line. Once again, you shooting too many threes and you're not making any. And I thought this game against LA and then the previous game against Phoenix, Sabrina was shooting too many threes and not going to her floater and her inside game. So she needs to figure out a balance between that. Like if you're not knocking down the three, you got to go to another alternative.
Yeah.
And I'm all about shooters continuing to shoot, but sometimes you got to go to something else and then go back to the shooting. Like see the ball going through the basket a little closer to the rim and then go back to your 3-point shot. And Sabrina didn't do that those 2 games. Jonquel Jones did not play. She was out sick. Sabali did have a good game. She had 14 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks, 1 steal. But my thing with Naira Sabali is that her confidence is up this year, and I like the way she's playing this year, right? She seems a lot more confident. I think the Olympics helped her. I think playing the last 2 years with the Liberty has helped her. The coaching staff really loves her and believes in her. She gels. Everybody on this team gets along. They gel together. But when Sabali's on the floor versus Jonquel Jones, I hate to say this, but it reminds me of like when we would have Hartenstein on the floor, and then sometimes we would get Mitch, and I would be like, I think we need to put Hartenstein back in because the pace was too fast, and we needed someone who could give us the passing, give us the rebound is a little quicker. And that's how I feel sometimes with Sabali. It's like I get it, John Cole has to take a breather, but sometimes I'm like, damn, I wish Sandy would put John Cole back in. And John Cole being out sick, I noticed the difference. Again, Sabali had a really good game. She's a lot more aggressive, and I noticed this year she's making those closer to the baskets that she should be making. But you know, I think when it comes to defensive stops, the defensive presence that I'm looking for, it's not there with her. You know what I mean? Whereas Jonquella is more of a threat in the paint. You know, she puts her hands up, she's stronger. And not that Sabali's not strong. She could hold her own, but I thought she got lucky that De'Erica Hamby didn't have a strong game because that Asian girl on the Sparks is trash. They need to get rid of her. They got to get rid of that girl because you can't just rely on De'Erica Hamby. You need another solid backup center, but that's
Yeah.
not there. But I thought De'Erica Hamby didn't have a good game. I thought Rakia Jackson had a great first quarter. She had like 7 shots, 7 points in a row. But the second quarter, she cooled off. And I'll give Kayla Thornton credit because she plays excellent defense against Rakia Jackson. But who I love Rakia's game, and I'm excited to see her even next year and just to continue to keep growing. But I thought that Los Angeles, the Sparks didn't do anything special in that game. The Liberty just was turning that ball over, and the Sparks were just capitalizing off of that. And I was just like, yo, what are the Liberty doing? They could win this game, but left and right, they kept turning the ball over. But I think it was the turnovers, the lack of pace. The Liberty didn't play at their pace. And then also the defense wasn't there. And I thought we missed John Paul Jones in that game, and you noticed it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I want to allude to, how they forced Phoenix into 22 points. However, Sparks, reversed the roles.
Mhm.
And to De'Erica's credit, she did have 21 points. For me, that's a pretty decent game. I just felt
It
that
was a quiet 21 points, though, meaning
well,
like she had
yeah,
she had to work for it, which she has to work for her points regardless. But it wasn't like the last 3 games where De'Erica went off on the Liberty, and it was
well,
just like
okay,
she was
true.
having her way. So
Okay, yeah, okay, I agree. It was a quiet 22 points. You don't want to discount nobody. It was still 21 points. But the Liberty just came out flat out the gate.
mhm.
It just wasn't their night. They like you said, LA didn't do anything special. I just felt that the Liberty, for the most part, they were flat. LA was able to control, the game, the tempo, their style, and the Liberty they fell for the okie doke because, like you said, they didn't do anything special. Um,
And they couldn't stop Ray Burrell,
oh
who in the
yeah,
fourth
yeah,
quarter was magically on fire, hitting 3-pointers from every
yeah,
which. possible. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking to myself, I didn't understand that. I'm like, y'all watching her shoot the three. Who's guarding? I kept saying, who's guarding Burrell? Ray Burrell was just shooting threes wherever she felt like it.
Yeah.
And she had this
Mm-hmm.
newfound confidence because she was even driving, getting the and one. And I'm like, all right, so we're not gonna play defense and y'all just gonna watch her shoot the threes?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but for the most part, uh, like you said, when teams when the Liberty beat teams, for, if they playing 4 games, some team, you know, they very seldom get swept, and this was LA's avenge game because
Yeah,
the Liberty did beat them,
three times.
back in June. Yeah,
Mhm.
June, and just recently in August. So I guess this was like their home. They was like, okay, we got to etch out a win, and to not that Niara, she did record her first double of the season, and so I guess with John Cross' absence,
They
they
took
were
advantage.
exactly, so they were able to capitalize. Would that have made a difference? I possibly, I believe so.
Yeah,
I
me too.
believe that the Liberty could have taken this game. You never want to belittle or discount anybody's game, but I think and kudos to Niara, she was able to record that first double double, but just the absence of John Quell, I think that was a pivotal factor into the loss. You know, Stewie, she 32 points. It just wasn't enough. For LA was just the better team at that day. They're not the better team overall. They were just able to capitalize on the Liberties, misfortunes, the turnovers, just the out hustling them. So and again, it was a bench game, revenge game for the Sparks. Kudos to them. Yeah, the Liberty, they did try to go on a little mini run, 12-3. But again, LA's they when the Liberty when it, you try to go on those mini runs, LA was able to respond and attack. Um, and again, they controlled it, and then at this particular game, they were just the better team that came out the victor. But you know, New York, has been the better team. They solidified where they stand, in the standings. But again, that's what I was alluded to, the turnovers and the defense. It has to be the night in, night out basis. And but those turnovers, man, they definitely got to like work on it. Some of their passes are just so telegraphic, like especially
Yeah,
when you're trying to, go from those court passes, cross court passes, like it's telegraphic. Like that's something they got to definitely work on. Um,
and John
because
Quell Jones, because she averages a lot of turnovers a game, at
oh
least 3 to
yeah,
5, because she has this thing where, and I don't get it because John Quell is not like a Mitchell Robinson where she's afraid to dribble and move with the ball. But I
hmm
think two things with her is that one, she's very well capable of bringing a ball over the half court,
oh yeah,
but she sometimes thinks she's a guard or a point guard. And I'm like, then when she brings it over half court, now she goes to make the pass. But sometimes the pass is, I'm holding my breath sometimes. I'm literally like, oh my gosh, it's gonna get stolen because it's not a good pass, or the decision on the timing of the pass isn't great.
hmm
So she also has a habit of like, you know how sometimes she catches the ball, and because she's trying not to travel or lose her balance, the ball ends up by her ankle. So now she's under the basket doing this. Now you have, whether it's Phoebish, Stewie, Sabrina, it could be Courtney or Benijah. They're in that corner 3-pointer, the shortest three you could take on the side. Jonquel will take the ball from her ankles, throw it almost like a football player when the quarterback has when they kicking it out and he's throwing it. She's doing that, but she's throwing it up from her ankle, she's throwing a pass. And I'm like, where in the basketball 101 fundamentals did they teach you how to do that? In the Bahamas? Because that's not a good pass. It's not a smart pass to throw that pass. Or she has this thing where she's at the top of the key on the perimeter of the 3 point line, and she does this. You know, when you throw the pass like that, why are you throwing that pass?
Yeah.
It's it doesn't have strength on it. If I'm the defense and I'm guarding at the top of the key, I'm looking at that and I could possibly stick my hand out and steal it and go on the fast break and get the points because we've seen it happen plenty of times. But or she does the one where she throws the pass behind her, the one behind her back where it's a bounce pass, but it's behind her back. I'm not sure why she does those passes. I don't like them. They don't look safe. You really need to stop doing that because I don't think that that's a good idea to do come the playoff time for
Yeah.
the playoffs. But I just don't like her passes. And I looked like when I look at the stats and I look at how many turnovers each player has, Jonquel has at least 3 to 5 a game.
Yeah, she's average.
Because, yeah, it's just stop. Stop with the silly passes. Stop with the you trying to get tricks and it's crazy to me because when they're at home, I think it's like a New York thing. People get woo wah, they get all like engaged, and I'm like, that's there's nothing fancy about that. They acting like Tina Penichero's on the court or like Maureen Johannes, and that makes you go ooh ah like oh shoot you saw that. But I'm like, those passes that John Cole are doing are more, maybe they're doing because they're scared like me. I don't know if it's that reaction. Again, I'm going by what I'm listening from the TV, but I'm not comfortable with the way she's passing the ball. And I want Jonquel to stop bringing that ball up so much. And when she does, I need her to look for either Courtney, Sabrina, Doikic, whoever's, just find them, give them the ball at a safe pass, and then go back to your positioning. Or if you're going to be up for the high screen, great. But she really has to watch those turnovers. It's like
Yeah.
it's painful to watch that every game. And I'm not just picking on her because it's other players too that do it that court have turnovers. But Jonquel, those passes, I don't want to see it. She does at least one a night. The Liberty on a break right now. They don't play again till next Thursday against Seattle. But she just has to watch the passes. It's just it's I don't like the passes that she throws. It's just stop. And I don't know why no one said anything to her. Like on the coaching staff, like, hey, let's limit, those kind of passes and try to keep them down. It's just whatever. Liberty finished off the West Coast road trip with a win on Friday, August 30th against Seattle Storm, 98-85. This was a really good game. It felt like a playoff intensity type of game, which just the intensity of game, the flow of the game. I really like the way this game was played by the Liberty. But once again, the turnovers were a problem. And the Liberty almost slipped up and allowed those turnovers to have them lose the game. The Liberty had 18 turnovers. Seattle only had 5. We did out rebound Seattle 45-17. So that makes a difference. And that's also because we had John Quell back this game after being out sick. We was at 46.2% from the 3 point line. Seattle was at 21.7. We was at 50% from the field goal line. Seattle was at 46. The only thing I will say with that Seattle game is that for some reason, no one could stop Skylar Diggins Smith. She was just driving in the paint, just driving. Layup here, reverse here. I'm like, yeah. Who I at one point I didn't even know who was guarding her because it just seemed like Skylar was having her way. I'm like, so is anybody gonna guard her? Because Jewel Lloyd, you already know she the Black Mamba. Her shot is so clutch.
Yeah.
She shoots that ball, it's straight in the net. Her shot very rarely hits the bounce off the rim.
Yeah.
That's what you mean when she shoots. Swish, swish, swish. Pure shooter. Jewel Lloyd, you can have great defense. She's just it's better offense. She's an excellent shooter.
She was an Olympian. She wasn't an Olympian for no reason. They picked her because of what she can do. So
Right. But
hats
it
off
just
to her.
There was no defense against Skylar Diggins Smith, which I didn't appreciate. But again, the turnovers, the high turnovers, 18 turnovers to 5, that could, of course, the Liberty this game. Um, the Liberty were 18 for 20 from the free throw line at 90%. I'm not really worried about the Liberty with the free throws because they are a really good free throw shooting
Yeah.
team. Stewie finished another game with 32 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. She was 3 for 4 from the 3 point line. Her 3 point shot seems to be coming along and it looks a lot better. Brianna Stewart, she was also 9 for 10 from the free throw line. 9 for 10. When Stewie is in that paint, she's undefeated. When Stewie does her warm ups before games, she's practicing those moves that she does in the paint.
Mm-hmm.
She practices those 1 foot balance moves. And when she's in real game time, I'm like, I appreciate her game a lot more now because I knew Brianna Stewart was good from her UConn days. I knew she was good when she was on Seattle, where she's won championships with Drew Lloyd. But when she came to the Liberty, it's just like when Jalen Brunson came to the Knicks. You know how a player, they're good, but when they on your team, you really get to see their game
Yeah.
unfold and see what they can really do. It makes you appreciate a player's game a lot more. And with Brianna Stewart, I was like, yo, she's cold. Stewie is cold.
Yeah. She
What
is. Yeah.
she does in that paint, I mean, she be having a double, triple team on her, and Brianna Stewart is fearless. She will make that shot, and I'm like, against Seattle, she had one. I was like, man, that was a tough basket. Even the commentators was like, man,
Yeah. She's
Stewie
cold.
still got it. She still got it. Like, it's very hard. And I'm sure most coaches are like, Brianna's going to score regardless, no matter what we do to her. She's going to figure out a way to score. And why she's so valuable to this Liberty team is that Brianna Stewart figures out a way to stop the clock. She gets herself to the free throw line and she knocks down the free throws, but she figures out a way to also score when we need scoring, when we need pivotal scoring. Because while I love how Sabrina has elevated her game and grown it where she's not just relying on the three, so that helps us also to get points when we need it. But Brianna does that well, especially like in fourth quarter. She can take over where I've seen where we just will feed Brianna Stewart the ball. And she does a great job where a lot of times we're not really feeding it to her at the top of the key. She's cutting through the middle of the lane. And then I don't remember what game it was that we played recently where we had like 3 seconds left. Courtney threw it to Brianna
Oh,
Stewart. And Brianna just with comfort, with ease. She
yeah.
didn't let the shot clock bother her. She turned around and it wasn't like a fadeaway. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah. I
in
was
the
just
paint
watching.
shot. And then I was
Yes.
like, I was looking at the shot clock. I was like, oh shoot, it's 2 seconds left. And Brianna just shot it and she went down the court.
Yeah. I
And
don't
the
know which
commentators was
game.
like, the Liberty's about to waste the shot clock. And I was like, no, they not. She about to make this shot. This was
Yeah,
one of the most basic
because Snoop, they thought she was gonna pull up on the logo,
right.
but
And
she
she
passed
picked
it to
it to her. Yeah,
Stewie.
she made that one
No,
extra unselfish
it
pass.
was 2 seconds left, like three. Then it went down to two, and Stewie.
So,
I don't
uh-huh.
know if that was. It was a recent game, of
Yeah.
course, it was a road trip, but I don't
Hmm.
know which game it was. Man, I was just watching that too. Yeah, yeah, man. She's ice, man. And like you said, you don't know until they're on your team. Then you could see the essence of like what they and the value of that player,
What they can
and
do.
you get
Yeah.
to appreciate them more.
Hmm.
When they're on the opposing team, you know they're good, but then when they're on your side, you really because you get to watch them night in and night out. So you get to appreciate them even more. But
Yeah.
I'm glad to have her, man. Because she when she was with Seattle, you knew she could score, but like she's like that good.
Yeah.
And just in this game again, this is it was pivotal for him, to close out. They lost the previous game, so it was like this is like a game that it was like a must win. Yeah, we know where they are in the standings, but all games are must win. But this was nice, and again to avoid a 2 game losing streak because they haven't had that. So they always like seem like they find a way,
to bounce
to
back.
put
Yeah,
to bounce back and pull out that win. Um, you know, the bench, and that's what I was saying, how the bench is going to be key, and it was in this game. The bench, did outscore, Seattle 17-11. So again, when you get that bench contribution, it's helpful. Um, Sabrina, she kudos to her. She was 8 for 8 from the free throw line, so she was able to bounce back. With her scoring, she had 8 assists, 8 rebounds. So again, that was like a complete all around game for her. And Phoebus, like, she continues to astound to like for me anyway, and considering she's like a rookie by WNBA standards, but you remember, she came from overseas, so for her to be playing for a rookie, but in the WNBA
mhm.
standards, she don't play like a rookie. She just like she's like a deuce. Whenever her numbers call, like she's gonna give you some production. Um, just like being able to step in and just and just score, defend. I didn't realize she was like I didn't know she was 6'4", and I think you mentioned like how I don't know if it was
She's
her
6'5".
6'5". Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, she has a long wingspan, which is why
Yeah,
she's also
yeah,
a threat
I-
on this team when we need her to defend
yeah.
on the players. So
Hmm.
she's a huge asset here. Yeah, she had a really great game for us. Her 3 pointers come in handy.
Oh
Um,
man.
and that's one of her favorites to shoot.
Yeah, yep.
4 for 5 from the 3 point line, 12 points. And
Mhm.
I think another player that also helped us in that game was Benai Jelani. That was her first game back.
Yeah.
From
No. Well, did she? No, didn't she play the LA? She came off the bench. And the thing, so that wasn't her first game back. The Seattle game.
I don't remember seeing her play. She was dressed in one of the games, but she didn't play. She was suited, and I know she had on like mad makeup, but she
No,
didn't play.
she came off the bench for the Seattle game and Phoenix. She played the
Yes, Seattle's the game she was back, but I don't remember
no,
seeing her play against Phoenix.
excuse me. Yeah, she came off the bench for Phoenix.
I don't
That
remember her.
that road trip. Yeah, she didn't matter of fact, that's when she came, that's when she started. She came yeah, she did, I think. I gotta double check. But
Yeah, I don't remember her seeing her in those games. I only remember seeing her in the last game against Seattle
yeah, she came. Yeah,
on
check
Friday.
the stats. She came, but either way, even John Cross, she had, oh, the rebounds was key. She had 11. She had a double for rebounds. New
And she
York
also
did,
had 5 turnovers.
wow. That's something that again they have to work on. Hopefully, with this day's rest, saying you're gonna have them in the gym, and these are the things that they need to work on. Those turnovers, and the defense has to tighten up. Um, fortunately, she had she's a those high turnovers, but she did have 11 rebounds, and they did out rebound Seattle 45, and they had 17 offensive rebounds. So that was key. It was a nice win for them.
Yeah, I know John
Overall.
Quell wasn't feeling well, so she still was trying to
Yeah,
bounce
yeah.
from being sick. So
Mhm.
I'll give her a pass, but
Yeah.
she still has to watch those turnovers.
Oh,
It's
for
still too
sure.
many, for her. But so far this season, has is there any player that stood out for you that you just overall are really loving their game?
Outside of Stewie and Sabrina, because again, we know that these are natural scores, they're Olympians. I'm loving Phoebus. Like Just her contribution, like I said, when her numbers pull, whether she's starting, in the absence of Laney or just coming off the bench. Like I said, she's a rookie by WNBA standards, but again, she brings that experience just by from overseas. So I'm loving her, her game. Niaris is coming around. I just wish she reminds me of the female version of Precious. Like they gotta just be a little bit more confident in their shot.
And
Um,
ready.
yeah,
Like when you ready, meaning like in a sense of like when you get that ball right near the basket, you gotta make it.
yeah, yeah.
She's done better at it, but the efficiency gotta get higher,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I definitely like Phoebus, just her contribution. And just overall like the bench that they seem to, they're coming along, and this is when we're gonna need them down the stretch.
yeah, I agree with Phoebus also. I think Phoebus is definitely the X factor for this team. But I'll pick a different player since you went with Phoebus. I'm gonna go with Kennedy Burke.
Mm,
Kennedy's another one who so Phoebus, the Liberty acquired their rights to her from Chicago. So technically Phoebus was signed to the Chicago Sky. But because she, like a lot of other players who play in the Euro League, they'll be signed to a WNBA team, but they're still fulfilling their obligations playing overseas. And then I
hmm.
guess when that WNBA team needs to fulfill a position, they'll bring that Euro League player over and they'll play on the WNBA squad for that season. So the Liberty scouted Phoebus and saw what she did and liked what she did and tisk tisk on Chicago for allowing her to for the Liberty to take her. But hey, glad we was able to scoop her up and shout out to the Liberty front office for getting Phoebus over here, just like they've done with Marine Johannes. But they also did that with Kennedy Burke, who played with France. So Kennedy's played with a couple of teams in the league. I know I had sent you that video that the Liberty did about their bench and highlighting what
Hmm.
the bench has done this season. But Kennedy, I've watched her highlight plays from her playing on other teams, but especially in France. And I think she's one of those players that a lot of what she do gets overlooked. I've watched Kennedy make her basketball IQ is very high. It's very high in that one, I think a lot of fans like her relationship that she has with Kayla Thornton. Their friendship is like that Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, where it's that silly, they're always like the social media content is always around them because they're both like they have this like fun friendship between the two of them and they're like the two closest ones on the team. Um, but I've watched her in games and I've watched situations where an opposing team will have the ball and whoever gets the ball will throw one of those Kevin Love football passes down the court. And Kennedy Burke, and I've seen her do this several times, she can stand right under the basket and wait for the offense to come to her and decide, okay, I'm going to try to either foul them or, stop them from scoring a fast break point, whatever. She's watching the pass and she will intercept the pass, grab it, bring it down, or throw it to whoever, and then we score. And I'm like, see, that's what I mean. It's like the decision making and the hustle that I watched her do countless times that those are the little things that make a big impact, a big difference for this
Yeah,
team. You can have someone that makes those smart decisions. And I've seen her do that countless times on this team. And just her passes, I told you, her passing reminds me of Isaiah Hartenstein. She's 6'5" as well. And shout out to the Liberty for getting these taller players because the height is needed. So she
yeah,
can come in a lot of times and play that center role for us or that power forward center positioning that we'll need at times, which also helps gives this Liberty team that versatility that they need. But Kennedy Burke throws excellent, excellent passes. She's one of those players that I'm always like, y'all got to be ready because she comes out there and I've seen her throw nice bounce passes to whoever's cutting to the basket. Like the timing of her passes where she's trying to get the ball into Stewie. She may hesitate at first to throw the defense off to make
Mm-hmm.
it like she's gonna throw the high pass and then she'll throw it. Then she may cut, and that's another thing she does well. She cuts to the basket well. So she's
Yeah.
able to get that nice layup to the basket. And she don't even use the backboard because she's so tall, she just lays it in so beautifully and it's able to go in. But Kennedy Burke, man, I love her passing, the basketball IQ, the way she's able to get, oh my gosh, the way she's able to get steals. I've watched her play defense and she's watching the pass and she'll jump up and grab the ball. She's done that so many times this season and she grabs it and then she's out on the fast break or she'll throw a nice. I'm like, I mean, I gotta really give the front office some credit for really scouting these like Euro League players and bringing them over here and knowing what was needed to really go after the championship this year because y'all was that close that last year. So, I mean, between her and Phoebish, and I love Kayla Thornton as well. I mean, I'm just very happy with what I'm seeing. And I think that's what also helps this Liberty team has helped them be so successful this year is because that takes the pressure off of Brianna Stewart, off of Sabrina Ionescu, off of Jonquel Jones, that they don't have to always put up all the points. When you have a strong bench who can come in and do the other intangibles, that helps them out. So I'm loving what I'm seeing from this bench team so far and this Liberty team. And man, shout out to the Liberty for performing.
Yeah. I mean, I, like with Kennedy, this is what her fourth year, something like that. I mean, so she's been around. She's just like really coming into her own, and you can only see, you know, what else she could, contribute to this Liberty team.
Right.
She's been around. She's on a few. I think this is her fourth. I don't know, something like that team. So
Yeah.
again, you just like you could just see what she can. She continues to elevate her game. I think the more playing time she can get, the better she can. The better she will get. So I like that choice was like you said, who do you see or like what do you see from a player like Kennedy Burke? I definitely love the upsides to her game for sure.
And she looks really happy here playing
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
on this Liberty team. I wanted to show this one play that Sabrina did on Friday that really stood out to me. The fact that she
Right
got
through it to
the ball from her
Ionescu.
knee.
Step through. Get her own rebound. Put it back up and in. You got to be kidding me. Okay. And then gets her offensive rebound.
Oh yeah.
That's something else right there. So watch her eyes. She catches it here. You know what? I can get this up. But she had PhD, proper hand development. Lloyd tries to.
I
PhD.
mean, those are the type of plays that I'm talking about that this Liberty team does that makes the difference. She could have gave up on the play.
Yep.
And I
Stop.
even saw when they got to the other end, Jonquel was pushing her like, go play defense. Like, not that she wasn't, but she was trying to let her know, like, move over there. And, I think I told you someone had posted, they made this, someone created an edited video of Sabrina and how she gets a lot of technical fouls. And I had commented and I said, Sabrina could get all the tech she wants because she's a leader. And when you play for a team here in New York, where New York is very tough, they're gritty, they're resilient, they're persistent. We don't want to see passive, shy players or players who are not vocal. I want to see somebody who's going to get out there and tell the ref, call the foul.
Yep.
And then she told the ref in the last game, she said, call the effing foul. And then the ref said, oh, keep up. I'm gonna give you a tech. She said, give it to me. Because she's like, yo, I know you see what I just saw. And I'm like, I love that about her. because there's really no one else on this team who's as vocal and hot-headed like her. But it's a good hot-headed. It's not
Yeah.
like she's trying to complain to the refs. It's like when it's right and she's owed a foul, she's gonna let the refs know. You know what I mean? It's not a complainative like I'm gonna sit on the side and keep talking to the ref. Sabrina's gonna go to the bench and go to the team and go to the huddle, but Sabrina is a leader, and I think this Liberty team, like the New York Knicks, they want a championship so bad because the Liberty have yet to win a championship yet in this WNBA league. So Sabrina, to me, I don't mind when she does that because to me, one, it's also entertaining. You know what I mean? To see her be like that. So I just appreciate it. And I'm like, leave Sabrina alone. Like let her do what she's doing and that's what she's gonna do. Like she's gonna go after her fouls and get what she's getting. I do want to share one last slide before we get out of here. They can hurry up and open up. It's trying to open up now. So this slide is by Kurt Goldsberry. So he does this for the NBA where he makes these landscape slides. So he makes these efficiency. Let me see if I could get rid of so you can see it better. Excuse me. So he makes these efficiency landscapes, and he does this with the Knicks as well. So if you look, I'm actually going to get rid of this also because you need to be able to see the wings at the bottom. So it's kind of hard to see, but if you look at the bottom, excuse me, if you look at this dotted line, that's pretty much showing you have Seattle Storm who's up here, the Connecticut Sun who are up here, Minnesota, as well as the Liberty. He has the Aces right in the middle because they're 5-5 in their last 10 games. And I believe the Aces are sitting at 5th in the league right now. Then he has the Indiana Fever, who somehow found their rhythm and their mojo.
Yeah.
Excuse me. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games. They're number 5 in net rating. They're number 1 in the offense in the league. They're 9 in defense. If you look at with the Liberty, they're at the top because they're number 1 in the league. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're number 1 in net ratings. They're 4 in offensive ratings, and they're number 1 in defensive ratings. And you can't forget about Minnesota, number 2 in net, number 2 in offensive, number 4 in defensive ratings. But then you have Atlanta, Atlanta Dream, Washington Mystics, Chicago Sky, who are in the 8th. And then you have the Sparks, who are dead last. Chicago have to watch out because they have Atlanta, Washington, and LA right on their heels because they've lost their last 4 or 5 games. So right now, there's only, I believe, 4 teams that are locked into the playoffs. That's the New York Liberty, the Connecticut Sun, Minnesota Lynx, Seattle Storm, and the Aces. So these 5 teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams are in. New York, Connecticut, Seattle, Minnesota, and the Las Vegas Aces. These are the 5 teams that are in the playoffs right now. Indiana, if I'm not mistaken, they're sitting at 7th. Phoenix Mercury's at 6th. And Chicago's at 8th. The 8th spot is going to be very, very interesting because Atlanta could go in the 8th. Washington could go to 8th, and so can LA, and hell, so can the Dallas Wings. Just because they're down here, the way these teams win streak and loss streak is, any one of these 4 teams can make it into the 8th seed.
Yeah, yeah.
The way things are going, and to be honest, the Fever can move up into the 6th seed as well if they're not already in 6th, and then Phoenix, I believe, moved to 7th. So these 2 teams, they can change either as well. Phoenix and Indiana Fever can move between, they could shift between that 6th and 7th spot. The 8th spot is any of these teams taking. Atlanta, Washington, Chicago, LA, and Dallas. Dallas is finding their mojo because they got Satu Sabali back.
Yeah, yep.
Now that gives Arike some help, which we also play the Wings again in like 2 weeks. But we will play Seattle Thursday, so the Liberty have a nice break, and then once we start on Thursday against Seattle, we go back to playing. So every team in the league is playing every other game, every other day. Excuse me. So this can change. The 8th spot can change between. A lot of people want to see Chicago in it because they want to see Angel Reese in it. I also would like to see Teaspoon be able to get into the playoffs. That's her first year coaching. But Chicago Sky has a lot of underlying drama, locker room drama, and things that we don't know about. But again, we've seen videos, and those of you who haven't, you can go to social media and look at it as well. There's some drama and there's some issues going on in Chicago. They need to sort that out. Teaspoon wants to have a grip on her team. The Los Angeles Sparks, Rakia is going to need some help. Now, that was the whole point of drafting Rakia Jackson and Cameron Brink. Cameron Brink tore her ACL. When Cameron Brink comes back to next year, and hopefully, LA could get Paige Buckers there. And then you could have Cameron Brink, Rakia Jackson, and Paige Buckers right here, and they'll be a problem next year. And then hopefully the coach can also work on his rotations as well. Satu had an injury, so this is why the Dallas Wings didn't do well this year. They made it to the playoffs last year. I'm not sure about this year. Washington is just not their year this year. Just didn't have a good season. Now, Atlanta at one point won 4 games in a row, 3 to 4 games, and then they dropped their last 4. But again, the way the 8th spot is sitting, Chicago's not safe. Any one of these teams can make it into the 8th and bump Chicago out. Phoenix, they're most likely going to make the playoffs. Phoenix, Indiana are going to make it. The biggest question is who out of these 5 teams, are going to make the 8th spot. I also want to preface by saying that, to me, this year, the WNBA playoffs are going to be a lot more exciting and not as predictable. Because I feel like the way the competition is set up, any one of these 8, 7, 6 teams can knock out the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th standings easily.
Yeah.
The way the competition is set up this year is going to make for a great playoffs because any one of these Dallas Wings, Los Angeles Sparks, Chicago Sky, Washington Mystics, Atlanta Dream, any one of these 5 teams can knock out any of these teams. They could knock out the Liberty. They could knock out Seattle. They could knock out Minnesota. Indiana is going to look to knock out one of these top 3 teams as well as the Aces. And I'm not counting the Aces out because they can find their rhythm in the playoffs and all of a sudden turn it up. So this, I thought, was a really good chart. And I think as it stands right now, we know, again, New York Liberty is in the playoffs. Seattle Storm is in the playoffs. Connecticut Sun is in the playoffs. Minnesota Lynx, who's been playing really well, are in the playoffs. The Las Vegas Aces are in the playoffs. And I'm pretty sure Indiana and the Mercury are definitely going to be in it. And then the 8th spot is going to be very interesting because Chicago's lost their last few games as well. So they haven't been able to win a game. So I don't know. I think that if you are 1 through 5 in the league right now, you can't be comfortable in the playoffs. Because it'll be a team like Chicago, Dallas, Hell, even LA. And those would be the one to surprise you and knock one of these teams out.
Yeah, yeah. You know,
I already called it. I said the Liberty, I said Seattle, I said Connecticut, Minnesota, and I said the Aces were going to be the top 5 teams. I called this from the rip.
yeah, you did, yeah. But my motto is any given night, it's anybody's game, and any team is beatable.
Hmm.
It's who wants it more. There's run your offense, and there's things that other things that you need to tighten up. Like you said, any one of these teams like in Indiana, they're at 500. So and they seem to inching their way up. Like you said, Caitlin's found her rhythm. That break really helped her tremendously. She was
Hmm.
able to work on her game, and they were able to do those practices and get some reps in and see where she likes the ball, dish the ball. So she found her rhythm. It was a big state. She's a rookie. She'll find her way. They all
Hmm.
do.
Right.
Most of them anyway. But like you said, you got teams that can creep up. We know Taraji. She's a veteran. She's gonna find a way to see if she can get Phoenix in there. Cloud is playing great. Beach. Um, Brittany, so these are the teams that you got to be on the lookout for. Teams that's going to could sneak in and sneak up in there. Now they're moving up in the standings. The least likely is what they call. Those
Hmm.
are the teams you got to be on the lookout for.
Yeah. Yeah, the Liberty. I think that they have to continue to create separation, like you were saying.
Yeah,
Um, and it's important that they figure out how to continue to not only just win games, but they have to be prepared for the playoffs. And that, just like in the NBA, teams turn it up to a different level. And yeah, the Liberty's in first, but that means nothing because you got to get through like 3 rounds before you get to the finals.
yeah.
And, so AP, there's 5 teams left to get into the playoffs. Well, that out of the 5 teams, there's one more left. So right now, the top 5 teams are already in. Well, really, you could say 6 because I'm sure I already know Phoenix and Indiana are gonna make it in.
No, when he said that question, I'm wondering, is he talking about the inception of the WNBA, or how is I interpret that like how many of the original teams, this one right here, how many of the original teams are left? I don't know if does he mean is that from the inception of when the WNBA first started, or like how you interpret it.
I interpret it regarding the playoffs because
Well,
that's what
see,
we're talking about. I mean, you could be right. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm only saying that because
yeah,
we're talking about that now.
yeah. See, but see, that's your interpretation. But my thinking is, does he mean by the inception of when the WNBA first started? So I don't know. Oh, okay, from the original. Yeah, I think it's 8.
Yeah, there's only 8.
No, there's actually 12. New York is an original team. Connecticut, Minnesota,
No,
Seattle,
Dallas is not a newer team.
yeah, Phoenix, that's 5.
Hmm.
Atlanta, that's 6, right?
Yeah, Atlanta's been around.
Washington, 7, and LA, 8. Those are the original teams that's been around since the inception of the WNBA. I may stand corrected. If somebody has another number, yes, since the inception is 8, right?
Yeah,
I would say 8. I may be
yeah,
wrong. Somebody um do some research and see, but otherwise, I think it's 8. That was a good question, though. Yeah, and we know we're getting another team out in the Bay.
the
Um,
Valkyries.
yeah, so
Yeah, and I heard Portland's gonna be the next team.
Oh, after? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're
Cool.
gonna bring one to Portland. They should bring one to Charlotte
Yeah,
because they
right.
definitely need more teams because I feel like they're playing each other too many times.
Oh, for sure.
So like, especially in the beginning of the season, the Liberty were playing Indiana like so many times.
Oh, yeah. Don't bring up memories, AP. AP. Remember Houston? They beat us
Yeah, the Comets
97.
were a problem back then. They were stacked though.
Man,
That was a stacked team.
they were.
They
So,
don't. That's just like how Minnesota was stacked. They
yeah.
had Maya Moore, Sylvia Fowles. They had
Lindsey Whalen.
yeah, they were stacked. But
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why Liberty got next because they're stacked. This
Yeah.
is why they're a problem team. Like they're very well stacked and versed on this team, so they got next. The Liberty, they got to take it, and then that mojo will pass on to the Knicks. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'm really curious to see how the playoffs shake up, who makes it into that eighth seed spot. And I'm really curious to see, like, as soon as the playoffs start, how things unfold and how things go down with these teams. So I'm just looking forward to see who does what. Of course, we'll be watching and monitoring the Liberty. As just they just got to take it. First of all, they need to finish off the regular season strong, and then now is the time where you have to peak for the playoffs and take it to that next level and not lose gas, not lose wind, and be ready to take it to the next level to win. So they're more than capable of doing it. I just think they can't fall flat, especially against like Connecticut, Minnesota. Cheryl Reeves don't want to lose against the Liberty. She's trying to win the championship too. And I told you I saw an article where they said, can Indiana Fever win the championship this year? I think that's a reach. I don't see them winning it this year. Yeah, they found some mojo and they won, but I don't see them winning it this year. And not just because I'm a Liberty fan. I just don't think that, and it's not saying that it's not possible. They can absolutely go to the finals. But do I see them winning it this year? No. I think with teams turning it up to another level, Minnesota being one of them, um, the Las Vegas Aces turning it up to another level. Connecticut signed the Liberty. Seattle's also well stacked. I just don't see that happening. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
agree. I
It's like
agree.
it's nice to bring it up and say it, but you know, you got to
They,
be
they,
careful.
they're,
The Caitlyn
they're a
cult
young team.
following, they're a cult, so they take her very seriously, and
They-
it could be a post. The WNBA pages on social media will post about a team. It could be Asia Wilson, for example, and they could have played Atlanta. Here comes someone in the comments from the Clark cult, and they say something, and I'm like, what does it have to do with what does that have to do with Asia Wilson? What does that
yeah.
have to do with that play, Alicia Gray? What does that have to do with Tina Charles? It blows my mind how they will chime in like trolls and they go, that wasn't Caitlin Clark though. They won't do that against her. And I'm like, but what did that have to do with Caitlin Clark? I'm like, this game had nothing to do with Indiana. They didn't play Indiana. They played Indiana 5, 6 games ago. What are you talking about? It's sickening and it's disgusting how her following is just so just unpeaceful.
Well,
Unpeaceful.
it's a following, but it's like you said, what does it have to do with that? Give everybody get their moment of shine. Like don't dampen a player's, if the article is about that player, then why can't we just comment about that player and what the article is about instead of the trolls chiming in about another player? So that's what I mean, it is sickening.
Yeah, it's just awful. Like, um, yeah. But yeah, that was it for me today. The Liberty are on a break, which is nice. They need the break. Like I said, all WNBA teams are playing every other game, and the Liberty will be back next Thursday against Seattle. Um, I'll be at that game. I can't wait. I've never seen Skylar Diggins Smith or Nneka Ogwumike play, so I'm excited to see them both play, as well as Jewel Lloyd. But yeah, I think starting Thursday, the Liberty are back on that every other game schedule again. So it's tough. I wish the league wasn't so condensed and it was a little longer so this way they wouldn't have to play every other game. I think that's quite harsh and it's a lot, but what are you gonna do? So anyways, anything else for you before we get out of here?
Nah, they just keep their foot on the gas and minimize some of the things, that are hurting them, which is their turnovers,
Mm,
and continue, playing solid defense. And all roads would lead to the Liberty.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. They got to limit the turnovers, step up the defense, and just get back to playing that Liberty team ball. Not that they got away from that, but yeah. So salute to the chat for everybody for joining us. Walter Blackman, salute to you. Wonder Woman, AP. Those of you who are not in the chat, the replay gang, shout out to you guys as well. If you like the content, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. It helps us get out on the algorithm and show some love to the channel. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And shout out to everybody. Everyone have a great week. And we'll see you all on the next episode. Until next time, everybody.